Hey, hello, welcome everybody. I appreciate it. Patrick Kelley. I'm a Zoom distinguished architect here, and most of the time I do these by myself. But today I roped in a colleague or a victim, if you might say. Josh, why are you here?
I'm here to talk about Zoom and Meet and collaboration and hopefully learn something myself.
Well, Zoom and collaboration is something I talk a lot about. So you're in the right group here. Neat is something I've never talked about. And as we change the way we work at Zoom, as well as really any UCaaS provider in the last 3 years, have completely changed the way we work, right? As from a completely remote perspective. And now as we progress through the pandemic, and we start going back to the office, right? This remote work now is bleeding into and turning into a hybrid work model where maybe the last 2 years, maybe even three, we haven't used a lot of conferencing rooms. Why? Because we haven't been there is really the good reason. But now as we start going back to the office and Zoom rooms and even Microsoft Teams rooms is playing more of a part of that. And really, Josh, that's kind of why you're here. You are with Neat, and Zoom is a complete software company. We don't make any hardware. We rely on vendors like you to create that.
Yeah, we obviously have a tight relationship that goes back to the inception of Neat and some of our Eric Yuan, the founder and CEO of Zoom, had a great relationship with our founding members and CEO and effectively through conversations with each other decided to get the band back together and start making hardware again. So we were truly built out of the Zoom room and really set forth to provide Zoom room appliances that are easy to use, easy to deploy, and easy to manage. And so just to complement the ease of use and intuitive nature of Zoom itself, we really set out to provide that same experience, but purpose built for the meeting space.
So when we get into this space, we start talking about rooms and hardware. Again, as Zoom is the provider of the software, there's some people in this space, right? There's the Jabras of the world. Even Audio Codes is now stepping into this space. Poly, HP as their relationship, Lenovo, and now Neat. What makes Neat a little bit different than everybody else?
Yeah. I mean, for one, we'd like to think that we really hired the best of the best and put together a team capable of delivering the best quality experience on the audio and video side of things. So I know that some of that's subjective, and we'd love for you to hear for yourself and make those decisions on your own. But we also have patented technology called Neat Symmetry, where we take kind of auto framing to the next level, and we focus on individual participants rather than maybe just the active speaker or a recent speaker, and we feel that gives it's a bit of a buzzword, but meeting equity or equality, and ultimately we're trying to provide the same experience we all got used to through the full remote, pandemic times where everybody had the same head and shoulders shot that you and I have right now. And then as the participants and users return to the office and to the meeting room, we might have 10 people that are huddled around a table, and everybody on the far end again has the discrete shots and everything of each individual. And so we take artificial intelligence or AI and effectively remove the parts that aren't important. But again, we feel that all the participants are important. If you're the one speaking and you're in the room, you get the feedback instant from the participants that are there with you, and you can see their body language, reactions, all that good stuff that is so crucial to communication. And so we feel like the far end should be able to experience those nuances as well. And so Neat Symmetry is, again, it's a patented technology where we individually auto frame the participants in the meeting space.
Yeah, there's so many new buzzwords for stuff like that, right? As we get into meeting democratization is another one that I've heard. But you're absolutely right. In the end of the day, We want to give meeting participants, no matter where they're at, the same power, the same way to express themselves, the same way to collaborate, communicate as everyone else. So now when you are at home and someone's in the office, you don't feel like your voice is being minimized. And so that's perfectly in line with what Zoom wants to do is this remote and hybrid workforce to really blend those two together. And we have to rely on our hardware vendors to do that, such as, stuff like Smart Gallery is exactly what we're talking about, really framing the participants in equity, no matter where they're at. So I'm sure everyone's tired of hearing me and they probably want to hear you. What cool stuff does Neat have that we can maybe show everybody?
Yeah. So really, we've had two announcements recently. One of them was at Zoomtopia back in October, I believe, and that is a product called Neat Center that we're expecting to start shipping later this year. I don't have one, unfortunately, so I can't show you the experience or even the physical hardware, but we can talk about it and kind of what its purpose is and what it's set out to solve. And then another more recent announcement at ISE a couple of weeks ago, we announced Neat Pulse, which is kind of a multifaceted support model that includes a lot of goodies, including remote management and monitoring software solutions. So it's kind of a complement to ZDM and an ability to effectively manage large deployments of Neat devices and kind of focus on some of the firmware level settings and all that good stuff. So again, kind of a complement to ZDM and ability to keep an eye on all of your Neat investment.
Well, I was at Zoomtopia, and so I was privileged enough to walk by the Neat booth there at the vendor place. So I got to see all your cool stuff. I did not see obviously the Neat Center, but I got to see your Neat bar and the whiteboarding abilities and even the digital signage and the room check-in and like all that cool stuff. So anything at all you'd like to talk about beyond just what I just brought up is super cool, even if it's a screenshot of cool technology that's coming in the future.
Yeah, well, I'll talk a bit about our Neat Bar Pro product because it just got some really exciting enhancements. And for those who don't know, Neat Bar Pro is kind of the big sister, the big brother of our flagship product, the Neat Bar. And as you might imagine, it is targeting larger room sizes than the standard Neat Bar. And so with that comes additional challenges, especially when we're talking audio and acoustics. So some of the new features in our most recent software release included kind of our first iteration of voice localization. So I mentioned with Neat Symmetry, we want to provide every participant to the far end and so, we don't take kind of the active speaker approach, but when we're talking Neat Symmetry in conjunction with Zoom Smart Gallery or multi-stream, historically we have had a limitation there. And so for those who don't know, if you are using Smart Gallery in a call on a Neat device, the experience is you're going to get 3 discrete streams coming from that Neat system. And the first one is going to be effectively a contextual shot that's going to give the far end context of what that room looks like. So it's going to be a group frame shot. It's going to be as tight as possible on all the participants there in the space, eliminating unwanted stuff, but ultimately, there's still going to be, a decent bit of unwanted stuff in there, whether it be tables, walls, ceilings, all that good stuff. And then your second and third stream are going to be the Neat Symmetry experience, where I mentioned we have every individual, auto framed. And so that symmetry experience is going to be split out over the second and third streams. And so if somebody on the far end was in active speaker view, for instance, then they would always see that group frame shot. That was the shot that was being identified as the active speaker. And so with our first iteration of voice localization, we are able to identify which of the subsequent streams the active speaker is in and ultimately identify that to the far end. So even if you're in gallery view, you look for that nice green outline around the active speaker. That's how you know who's currently speaking. But then again, if you're in active speaker view, you're going to get the the symmetry shot rather than that kind of group frame contextual shot. So excited about that. Again, that's our first iteration of voice localization or speaker tracking, but excited to see kind of where that grows beyond just the smart gallery functionality. But we also made some improvements to the onboard audio. So we made some improvements or enhancements to our beamforming technology on that. So doing a better job of identifying the active speaker and targeting the active speaker and mitigating unwanted noise or speakers outside of that beam. We also rolled out our first iteration of deep noise suppression on the NeatBar Pro. So all of our devices have some level of automatic gain control and some noise reduction. So they're targeting, static sounds like HVAC or road noise or, projector fan or something like that. But to date, our Neat Frame had additional processing called deep noise suppression, and that was targeting kind of dynamic sounds like keyboard typing, rustling of papers, anything like that. And so again, it's been on our frame since the frame started shipping, and we just rolled it out on our NeatBar Pro product. So some great enhancements there on the voice localization, the deep noise suppression, and then again improvements on the beamforming. So a lot of love for the Bar Pro in our most recent release.
It's almost funny to say, since we are on a video meeting and we are using Zoom for video. But I do a lot of videos, and I almost have a different concept or a different thought in that video and video quality, of course, are super important. But I think the person, it's like the George Costanza of a video meeting. He didn't get any respect in the Jerry Seinfeld series. If you watch that at all, I'm dating myself now, Josh. There's probably lots of people like, I've never heard of Seinfeld. But anyway, I truly think that the quality of audio is probably the most important part of a meeting. That's just my opinion, though.
Yeah, I mean, I first off love Seinfeld. George Costanza, one of the best characters in all history, in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, think about it. If my audio suddenly dropped right now, I mean, how well are we able to communicate?
Yeah.
But if my video cut out, we can still communicate. Sure, we're missing obviously some important parts of communication, but I used to dial audio bridges all the time. That was a conference call, and so now I think video's been ubiquitous for some time, but absolutely, video quality is something that is typically the first thing to be throttled when we're running out of bandwidth and stuff like that, and so I agree with you 100%. If you can't hear somebody, much tougher to communicate than if you can't see somebody.
So when you brought up the NeatBar, it made me think about, I know this is simplifying it to a degree, but when I talk to customers, I typically put 3 different categories of conferencing rooms and or huddle rooms in when I'm talking about these. And we're talking about this, like you could design a room any way you want, right? It's really kind of subjective to a degree. You have to work with a lot of extraneous variables, table size, windows, literally a lot of things that are not under your control as a hardware or a software vendor. So I always kind of put them into 3 different categories. And I wondered if Neat did this too. This is nothing really. This is just curiosity, really, more than anything. Is I always talk about maybe a huddle space or an open space as a one type of conferencing room or huddle space, and then I go into a medium, right, the 6 to 8 person room, and then I obviously go bigger than that, which is probably not where we're going. As I've seen a lot of new offices stay away from those very large conferencing rooms that are not used too much. They're going for more so for the huddle spaces as well as the medium conferencing rooms. Just this, you're curious your thought on that.
Yeah, and I don't remember which research outfit it was, but years ago I remember seeing the conference room pyramid. I think maybe, and I don't know if that rings a bell, but it was essentially taking the data and putting it in a nice graphic and showing, I guess at that point the current landscape of meeting rooms, and as you might imagine, at that tip top, taking up the smallest percentage, that was those, large executive spaces, the multi-purpose rooms, the training rooms, and stuff like that. And then taking a bulk of this was at the bottom, was the huddle rooms. And so, and this was probably right around when we started hearing the term huddle room quite a lot. But it really picked up speed and gained traction. And the beauty of things like ZDM and being able to provide metrics, in conjunction with the devices and the rooms, gives that data back to the stakeholders, the ones who are kind of making decisions on which room sizes to build out and stuff like that. So you can get real-time utilization data and figure out which room types and sizes are getting more use than others, and then build out what makes sense for your organization. So, but yeah, and then if you look at our product line, as I mentioned before, our flagship product, the first product we delivered as a Neat Zoom room appliance was the Neat Bar, and the Neat Bar targets those room sizes too. So it was kind of a natural starting place to hit the huddle rooms, the small to medium conference rooms, and then we kind of built up from there. So now we have an all-in-one Neat board where it is again targeting kind of the 8 to 10 person conference room, just like the Neat Bar, but it's in a 65-inch display form factor, and great for whiteboarding and all that good stuff. And then, like I said, we have the Bar Pro, which is going after those medium to large spaces. And then we also have a personal device in the Neat Frame that's great for individual offices or phone booths and small focus rooms and that kind of stuff. So I think naturally, if you look at our progression as a company, we kind of targeted those same rooms at first. I wasn't around when those decisions were made, but but if I was, I probably would have voted for the small rooms myself.
As I do a lot more demos on even in workspace management and hot desking and getting back into the office and reserving your own space, I see a lot more companies, because I see a lot more. The reason I know that is because I see a lot more designs as I'm working with customers on that workspace management, and seeing how many more huddle rooms and medium rooms that they're putting in their outlay line than I was typically used to even five years ago. And that's just, that space has come along and so fast and so exponentially, as let's be real completely clear, is that those conferencing rooms used to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars at some point, and a lot of vendors, I won't name it who they are, but that who you are, made a lot of money on the hardware and the deployment of those things. And now, as technology has progressed, and we've literally, and you and as well, Neat, have decreased the cost of the overall hardware, but you've also decreased the cost of the management, and that's an exciting thing that I think you're going to talk about is obviously Zoom, the device management is built into the portal, and we have the way to manage our devices, phones, meeting rooms, huddle spaces right from the portal itself. But now you're adding to that, right? That's what Neat's doing. They're adding a little bit more emphasis on that when it comes to the Neat hardware.
Yeah, 100%. That's really what Neat Pulse is targeting, and so yeah, it's exciting to be able to provide that. Early on, we fully anticipated just using ZDM and didn't necessarily identify the need for a Neat specific solution. But as we've grown and moved into a lot more enterprise organizations and environments, and we're getting to these large deployments, we quickly identified the need for an augmentation of what was currently available. And so yeah, Neat Pulse is we'll look at it in a little bit, but it's very intuitive and clean UI, just like you would expect from Neat. And so we're certainly excited about Neat Pulse for sure.
Well, as I talk to vendors along the way, as well as customers along the way, when it comes to hardware decisions, I'm seeing this more, and maybe you guys are too, is that customers are doing a pretty good job of ferreting out what works for them, doing really good POCs in this space. And then when they make a decision, they go full in. They don't want a whole bunch of vendors doing a whole bunch of different things, right? To have a whole bunch of hardware, because the more stuff you have, the more stuff you have to support. So I could imagine is one of the philosophies when you're finding is that when they go in all neat, especially at an enterprise level, right, where we're talking not one or two conferencing rooms, but 50, 100, 200 level conferencing rooms, you still got to manage all that stuff. And it's a lot of times it's going to be remote, right? You're not going to go around touching every single one of those rooms after they're set up. And hopefully you're getting proactive data, you're getting proactive alerts where, hey, USB cable's out, or, the video's off. All those things really help, obviously, IT managers manage their entire deployment.
Absolutely. And I think that's one place, especially if you talk to people who are managing software stacks and everything in organizations, that they probably have pointed the finger at AV and UC as being late to the party, because historically, I think the other facets of IT have done a better job of providing a single pane of glass to monitor all these disparate, solutions. And when it comes to AV, even if we have APIs on a lot of our gear and stuff like that, you still have trouble finding a magic bullet that can kind of take all of that and encompass it into one. And so I'm not claiming that Neat has developed the magic bullet. We're just another pane of glass for you to leverage. But I do think that that's something that we will see in the future, and already have some talks about a more agnostic view into the environments. But yeah, and as you say, I think part of the reason that I was drawn to Neat, not just because I knew the people behind it and loved the quality of the product, but I watched those trends from my past life of seeing customers move from these highly complex, super fun to design spaces. I've always loved the complexity of AV and system design. I love the idea of having a lot of disparate parts that you take and make them work together seamlessly and provide an intuitive user interface. And the user doesn't have to think about, oh, there's a huge rack full of gear in that closet over there that's doing all this. They see a touch panel and they see the camera, the microphone, speakers, display, whatever those visible components might be, and it just works. And that is really what I've always loved about the AV side of things. But I think a lot of customers realize that those racks full of gear come with a ton of different failure points and a whole lot of finger pointing. And so rather than having to hunt down, 6 or 7 different manufacturers and figure out which one's going to, own the issue. It's nice to say, hey, we're going to standardize on one type of product. It fits a majority of our meeting rooms, and that way we only have to manage one relationship or a couple relationships. And I used to refer to it kind of as quantity over quality. But in today's ages, you really don't have to sacrifice quality to get that. Like you said, it's an affordable, easy to deploy solution that does get you into more meeting rooms. And so now that the quality drop off isn't a factor, it's really just getting the quantity out there, and so having that easy, intuitive, predictable experience, whether it's in a huddle room or the executive boardroom, that's something that the Zoom rooms UI and everything has just, I don't know, it's delivered.
I thank you. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate the information on Neat. And I know you are in my neck of the woods, so maybe the next time we get together, we could have a beer somewhere.
Let's do it.
All right, buddy. Have a good day. Thank you for your time.